Shalom. The Hagada tells us the story of the redemption of the Jewish people from the oppressions of Mitzrayim. Moreover, the Hagada tells the story of the birth of the Jewish people as they become from a white family of slaves to a nation that is the source of the most sublime and moral knowledge with mankind can be acquainted, the knowledge of the omnipresent of the Almighty. The story of Yetzias Mitzrayim is well known, but every year it surprises us. It's as if you have heard it or told it for the first time. Every year a new perspective can be found, one that can have profound meaning on life. Today, I wish to discuss the place of Eretz Yisrael in the story of the Hagada. Eretz Yisrael is not mentioned in the story of the Hagada. That seems understandable. We reached Eretz Yisrael only 40 years after Yetzias Mitzrayim. Between the day we departed from Mitzrayim until we entered to Eretz Yisrael, we received the Torah, built a Mishkan. We also made a golden calf. We ate man for 40 years. We overcame adversaries, withstood the desert. It was really a lifespan that divided the exodus from Mitzrayim and our coming to Eretz Yisrael. Indeed, it was a new generation that left Mitzrayim behind and entered Eretz Yisrael. And there was a new leader, Yehoshua. So we could really simply ask, what is the connection between Yetzias Mitzrayim and Eretz Yisrael? The answer is that while Eretz Yisrael itself does not influence directly the events we describe in the Hagada, Eretz Yisrael is the cornerstone of the story of the birth of the Jewish people in Mitzrayim. In Sefer Bereshit, 15th chapter, we read of the covenant made between Hashem and Avraham. At the time, he was still named Avram. He was 100 years old, had no children, no natural hope for any offspring, and he is promised by unseen deity to inherit through his seed the wondrous land that we now call Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. But at the time, it was known by the name of the land of 10 nations. Avram asked, very logically, Hashem, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And then a covenant was made by Hashem with Avraham. No, of a surety, that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. Also that nation which they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. And in the 4th generation they shall come back here. Mitzrayim, with all the tribulations and awesome miracles, were in reality the first step in the process of Am Yisrael inheriting Eretz Yisrael. The end of this process shall be realized in full when we return to Eretz Yisrael, accompanied by Mashiach Tzidkenu. During the Seder, we drink 4 cups of wine. The cups of wine commemorate the 4 different expressions of Gula. Ani Hashem, והוצאתי אתכם מתחת סבלות מצרים, הצלתי אתכם מעבודתם, גאלתי אתכם בזרוע נטויה ובשבטים גדולים, לקחתי אתכם לי לעם והייתי לכם לאלוהים. I shall bring out, I shall deliver, redeem, take. There's a 5th cup, one that we do not drink. It adorns the table, and it is called the cup of Eliyahu, kos shel Eliyahu. For there is a fifth expression of Gula in those same psukim. It says, והבאתי אתכם אל הארץ אשר נשאתי את ידי לתת אותה לאברהם, ליצחק וליעקב, ונתתי אותה לכם מורשה, אני השם. I shall bring you unto the land. This expression, this declaration by Hashem has not been completely fulfilled. And we're waiting and hoping to hear Eliyahu Navi declaring and telling us that the great and awesome day of Hashem has arrived. Eretz Yisrael is an inherent part of the story we tell on Seder night. For that reason, in the beginning and the end of the Hagada, we speak of Eretz Yisrael. In the beginning of the Haggadah, Halach Ma'anya, we finish by expressing our hopes for the future. Next year in Eretz Yisrael, next year we shall be free. Hashata hacha l'shana haba b'Arad Yisrael. Hashata avde l'shana haba b'nei chorin. In Hebrew, we do not say l'shana haba b'cherut, but b'nei chorin. We are not speaking of a social status. We are asking for a character trait, a freedom. Harav Kook writes that even a slave can be full of the spirit of freedom, and a socially free person can be full with the spirit of slavery. That is on one end of the Haggadah. On the other hand, as we draw close to the end of the Haggadah, we speak of our future, L'shana haba'a b'Yerushalayim. We tell the story of the deliverance from Mitzrayim, and we acknowledge what this means in relationship to Eretz Yisrael. This insight will help us understand in what way the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim that we tell on the Seder night is connected to Mitzvat Bikurim. The essence of the story of the deliverance from Mitzrayim is told in 4 passages taken from the pronouncement given by every Jew when bringing the first of all fruit, the Bikurim, to Bet HaMikdash. Moreover, many commentators note that the Seder table, with the various foods on the Seder dish, resemble the basket in which we bring the fruit of the Bikurim, the first fruit grown every year, and bring them to the big Mikdash. What is connecting Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim to Mitzvat Bikurim? After the understanding we have reached, we can now look at this in a new perspective. We are using Bikurim as a cornerstone of our work on this night, because this articulates our acknowledgement that the Yetziat Mitzrayim was the cornerstone of our coming to Eretz Yisrael. Many years ago, I came to Rav Tzvi Yehuda Zatzal to discuss a point made by a Rav Kook in his Haggadah. Everyone knows the story of the great Tanoim, group of Tanoim, that were narrating the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. They sat all night, each adding to their standing of the redemption of the miracles that occurred that night. We are told that this unique Seder took place in Bnei Brak. Maseh, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yehoshua, Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon, Shayu Mesubim Bivnei Brak. Harav Kook notes that this seemingly trivial fact, placing the Seder in Bnei Brak, in fact tells us something of the atmosphere and the spiritual level that they had achieved when telling the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. There's a Gemara in Ksuvis that tells of Rami Bar Yecheskel, who was in Bnei Brak, visited Bnei Brak, and saw a goat nibbling at a date. Honey dropped from the fruit, and it mixed with the milk that came from the goat. The said Tana, Rami Bar Yecheskel, immediately pronounced, "Here we see Eretz Avat Chalav, a land flowing of milk and honey." Harav Kook remarks that the Tanoim were in Bnei Brak and were able to see with their own eyes the wonders of Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Avat Chalav Udvash, a land flowing of milk and honey. And that gave them a new perspective, and they were able to see to a greater stage, to a greater level of understanding, how Yetzias Mitzrayim transcends any goodness bestowed on any human being. I asked Rav Tzvi Yehuda at the time, what is so special in the merit of land flowing of milk and honey? I offered an explanation. The Maharal explains that when one drinks milk, his body cools off. When one eats honey, his body warms up. These are two diametrically opposite kinds of food, and they give diametrically opposite results. The material world is a world of strict boundaries, and two opposites cannot live together. This shows the uniqueness of Eretz Yisrael. It transcends the usual boundaries which limit this world. In this way, I wanted to explain Rav Kook's remarks on the setting of the Seder in Bnei Brak. And Rav Tzvi Yehuda said to me, I have another explanation on the merit and the value of a land flowing of milk and honey. Honey in the Torah really refers to fruit honey, such as what can be found in figs and dates. But the word vash, honey, also means bee honey. The Gemara asks a question about bee honey. How are we allowed to eat honey? Seemingly, this stands in contradiction to the ruling that anything comes forth from something that is unclean, unpure itself, tameh, is prohibited. Hayotze me'atameh, tameh. The Gemara answers that honey doesn't come from the bee. The bee is just a pipeline that brings us the honey from the flowers. A similar question arises when we talk about milk. The Gemara determines that milk is blood that is changed. Again, we find a product that its origins are impure, and it itself is allowed to be eaten. This is the unique trait of Eretz Yisrael. The Torah alludes to this trait in the words, Zavat chalav udvash, flowing of milk and honey. Just as in milk and honey we have something that is tameh, an origin that is tameh, but the product itself is tahor and is allowed to be eaten, so Eretz Yisrael. A person that is attached to Eretz Yisrael, even if he himself is tameh, Eretz Yisrael will not leave him at that level in such a state, but will uplift him until he becomes tahor. Harav Tzhuda continued that Tikkunei Zohar speaks about the castle of the Mashiach. Who can enter such a castle? Who has a right of entry? The Zohar says, only one who can change darkness into light and tum'ah to tahara. Eretz Yisrael and Geula have the same unique trait. Anyone who is attached to Eretz Yisrael or to the process of Geula, no matter what his spiritual level may be, Eretz Yisrael and the process of Geula will uplift him. That is what the Tanaim saw in Bnei Brak. And it was from that level, from those heights, they told the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim all through the night.